Okay, so from today onwards, we are going to start the unit number 3, that is design of digital filters. In the last lectures, we have completed unit 1 and unit 2. Few of the topics of unit 2 are still remaining, so that we will cover if the time allows. So today we start with the unit number 3, that is design of digital filters. Okay, so let us start with the introduction. So in the design of frequency selective filters, the desired filter characteristics are specified in the frequency domain in terms of the desired magnitude and phase response of the filter. So now when we design the frequency selective filters, what we are doing, we are specifying the parameters in terms of desired magnitude response and desired phase response. Okay, so in the filter design process, we determine the coefficients of a causal FIR or IR filter that closely approximate the desired frequency response specification. So first we specify what kind of frequency response or what type of magnitude response and phase response we require. That is known as our specifications. So based on that, we decide either we use causal FIR filter or IR filter to closely approximate these parameters. Okay, so the issue of which type of filter to design, either FIR or IR, they depend on the nature of the problem and on the specification of the desired frequency response. So after deciding magnitude and phase response, we decide which filter we have to use, FIR or IR filter. So that depend on the nature of the problem and the specifications of the desired frequency response. So in practice, FIR filters are employed in filtering problems where there is a requirement for a linear phase characteristic within the passband of the filter. So whenever our requirement is linear phase, then we go for the FIR filters in practice. If there is a no requirement for the linear phase characteristic, means when we don't require any linear phase characteristic in the output, the choice is either we go for IIR or FIR filter. So the optional is when linear phase characteristic is not needed, either we go for IIR or FIR filter. So as a general rule, an IR filter has lower side lobes in the stop band than the FIR filter having the same number of parameters. So number of side lobes are less in the IR filter in the stop band compared to the FIR filter having the same number of parameters. So if we work on the common parameters, suppose few parameters, filter coefficient parameters are given, and if both are common for FIR and IR filter, then what happen? In that case, your IR filter having the lower side lobes in the stop band. So for this reason, if some phase distortion is either tolerable or unimportant. So if we allow some phase distortion or we can tolerate some phase distortion, in that case, IR filter is preferable because its implementation involves fewer parameters compared to FIR filters. Less parameters are needed, require less memory, and has lower computational complexity. So compared to FIR, these are the advantages which we are getting when we go for the implementation of the filter with the IIR. So that less number of parameters, it requires less memory and having lower computational complexity. Okay, so as when linear phase characteristic is there, we don't have any choice, we go for the FIR filter. But if linear phase is not there and some phase distortion we can allow or we can tolerate, in that case we go for the IR filter. Okay, so general considerations are filter which are not causal and are not physically realizable. So we can say the filters which are not causal means having values less than 0. So these filters are not practically or physically realizable. So what is the causality and its implications? So an ideal low pass filter with frequency characteristic. So if I define the frequency characteristic of the ideal low pass filter, so ideal low pass filter means simply we can say it pass the low frequencies and reject all the high frequencies. So H omega is equal to 1 where mod of omega is less than or equal to omega c. So suppose this is your omega value and this is H of omega. I write simply H over here. So here whatever your omega you are taking, that is the omega c, that is cutoff frequency. So where it will give you the value 1, ideally it will give you the value 1 where mod of omega is less than or equal to omega c. Means in this particular region, your values are 1. Okay. So this particular region, your values are 1. 0 values, which is omega c less than omega less than or equal to pi. Means for the other values, means for the higher frequency bands, you are getting the 0 value. So this is the ideal frequency characteristic of a low pass filter. So the impulse response of this filter, so this is a frequency characteristic. Now we go for the impulse response h of n for this ideal low pass filter, which is given as omega c by pi, where n is equal to 0, and omega c by pi into sine omega cn by omega cn, where n is not equal to 0. So this is nothing but the simply you can understand the frequency characteristic of low pass filter having value 1 or constant value till the cutoff frequency, and after cutoff frequency your value are 0, and this is nothing but the impulse response of that particular filter. Okay, so now if we plot this plot of h of n or impulse response, where we are taking the omega c is equal to pi by 4. So in this case we have taken omega c cutoff frequency, that is equal to pi by 4. So here you are getting this unit sample response of an ideal low pass filter. So here you can see here one discrete plot is shown to you. So values are visible to you. Here this is the main lobe and these all are the side lobes. Okay, just a second. Okay, so this is the main lobe. Here you can see the value, maximum value is 0.25, and here your range is 20, minus 20, means 20 discrete samples in the positive direction and 20 number of discrete samples in the negative direction. So here h of n and this x-axis are nothing but the values of n. So here we plot this. So this is a unit sample response of an ideal low pass filter. So as you can see, the low pass filter is non-causal, and hence it cannot be realized in practice. So if we directly go for the implementation of this low pass filter, okay, what happened? It is a non-causal. Okay, it is non-causal means it is having the value, having some values less than 0. Means in this domain, or you can say in this spectrum, means the filter having the value where n is less than 0. So this condition you can say the filter is nothing but a non-causal. So as we have discussed, when any filter is non-causal, it is physically or practically unrealizable. So now what to do? So one possible solution is to introduce a large delay. So if I want to implement that filter, that low pass filter, ideal low pass filter, so one possible solution is suggested is to introduce a large delay n0 in h of n and arbitrarily to set h of n is equal to 0 for n is less than 0. So what happens? Simply the suggestion is like this. We can shift this spectrum, means whatever, this may be the starting point of this and this may be the ending point of this. So what we are doing, we are shifting this spectrum, or we are creating this n amount of delay. Okay, so now your spectrum may be starting from this point, and here you can say for the remaining values, or you can say the values where n is less than n0, you are having the 0 values. Means if I shift or if I delay this spectrum by n0 amount, what happen? In that case, what happen? You can here it is mentioned h of n is equal to 0 for n is less than n0 if we introduce large amount of delay, that is n0. But what happened? However, the resulting system no longer has an ideal frequency response characteristic as you have shifted the spectrum. So whatever resulting system you are designing based on that no longer having the ideal frequency response characteristic because you have shifted the impulse response. So what are the necessary and sufficient condition that a frequency response characteristic h omega must satisfy in order for the resulting filter to be causal? Now we have to think on that. What are the necessary and sufficient conditions that a frequency response characteristic h omega must satisfy in order for the resulting filter to be causal? Suppose if I want to implement that filter, so the condition is we need the filter must be causal. So what are the necessary and sufficient conditions that filter response characteristic must satisfy in order the filter to be causal and practically realizable, practically or physically realizable? So the answer to this question is given by the Pelle-Wiener theorem. So one theorem is there, the name is Pelle-Wiener theorem. So whatever the necessary and sufficient conditions to make the filter causal or the physically realizable, so that theorem is introduced. All of you clear up to this or having any query, please let me know. Yes, if anybody have any query, you can please ask. Okay, just a second. Okay, roll number CO003, please unmute. Just a second. Yeah, CO003, Joy Garasia.
Yes, yes, sir.
Can you differentiate between causal and non-causal? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Can you differentiate between causal and non-causal? Please respond.
Sir, don't know, sir.
Okay, CO04, Tanmay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you differentiate between causal and non-causal?
So causal filters are those filters through which we can plot the whole graph without any higher value or lower value differentiating it. Or non-causal is the graph which cannot be defined by a low pass filter.
And what is the causal and non-causal system? Forget about the filters. What is causal and non-causal system? When we say this system is causal, when we say that system is non-causal.
So causal system are those systems which depend on the past values, and non-causal is such a system which does not depend on the past values. Which each value is dependent on the time frame on which it is pointed.
Your answers are correct, but I think you have changed the titles. What is
What?
causal? That depend on
Past values.
causal is depend on past values.
I think so. I have
And
confused them
non-causal?
both.
Yeah,
Just,
you reverse the titles.
yeah.
Causal
Sorry,
depend on the present and
sorry, sir.
future values,
Yes, sir.
not past
Sorry, sir.
values.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Darshil, CO05, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there are the two system, causal and non-causal. Another I
Yes.
introduced, that is anti-causal. Can you differentiate between among these three?
Sir, causal depends on future values and non-causal does not depend on future.
Causal, just a second. Causal depend on
The
future
future
values. Only future values?
sir, future and past.
Future and past. Great. And what about non-causal?
Sir, they are not dependent on the future and past.
Okay. And anti-causal?
Sir, I don't know anti-causal.
Okay. Let me ask you of CO12. Rajnish. CO12, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you differentiate among these three, causal, anti-causal, and non-causal?
Sir, causal depend on present and past values, and non-causal depend on
Just a
future
second, just a second.
values.
Causal depend on
Causal present and
causal
past,
depend on
and
present and past.
yes, sir.
Non-causal
Causal depend on present and past, and non-causal present, past, and future also.
and anti-causal.
Sir, I didn't know about anti-causal.
Okay, you can mute. Okay, roll number 21, Vikas. Roll number 21, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you differentiate among these three, causal, anti-causal, and non-causal? Because when we study this theory, at least this concept must be clear in your mind. That's why I'm asking.
So causal system are system whose output depends on present and past values.
Present and past values.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And non-causal are
Non-causal,
that which depends on future values.
anti-causal, anti-causal,
Sir, anti-causal is system which depends solely on future values. It doesn't depend on past and present, only on future.
little confusion in your all whatever. Okay, roll number 31, CO 31. Please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you tell me the difference between these three?
Sir, when we compare causal and non-causal, sir, causal is concerned only with the present and past input, and non-causal also take care of future inputs.
Okay, what about anti-causal?
Sir, anti-causal, when we talk about anti-causal, then we are taking only the future inputs.
Okay. Okay, roll number 45. Can you please answer?
Yes, sir. Sir, a causal system is one are taken from past and
Your voice
which
is
takes under
breaking.
consideration of. Hello.
Yeah, now it's audible.
Yeah. Shall I start again?
Yeah.
Sir, a causal system is one which depends on both past and present values. But whereas non-causal system takes care of past, present, and future also. Means I'm giving input. The input can be both past, present, and future values. Whereas anti-causal system is a hypothetical system which only assumes inputs from the future values.
Okay, correct. So at least all of you must aware about these terms: causal, anti-causal, and non-causal. Okay, so let me start with this Perry-Wiener theorem. So this theorem, this Perry-Wiener theorem, is give you the answer about the what will be the necessary and sufficient conditions that a frequency response characteristic h omega must satisfy in order for the resulting filter to be causal. Okay, so we are making the resulting filter causal because just a second. Yeah, when our resulting filter is causal, then only we are able to physically or practically realize that particular filter, otherwise not. Okay, so this is the statement for the Perry-Wiener theorem. So if h of n has finite energy and h of n is equal to 0 for n is less than 0, then so here h of n is nothing but impulse response having the finite energy, and h of n having the value 0 where n is less than 0, then its frequency response is given by the equation integration from minus pi to pi mod of ln h omega d omega less than infinity. So you can say that if h omega is square integrable and if the above integral is finite, whatever integral we are solving, so condition is that must be having the finite values, then we can associate with h omega a phase response. So along with h omega, now we associate the term that is phase response theta omega, so that the resulting filter with frequency response must be causal. So now whatever h omega we are writing, it is nothing but the two terms mod of h omega into e raised to j theta omega. So we are introducing the new term that is phase response. So what happened? We are associating that term phase response to make that filter causal. So the magnitude function h omega can be 0. So this is the statement you have to remember about the Perry-Wiener theorem. The magnitude function mod of h omega can be 0 at some frequencies. So it may happen this mod of h omega having 0 values at some frequencies, but it cannot be 0 over any finite band of frequencies. Suppose it is a 0 for any finite band of frequencies. What happens? Since the integral then become infinite, so in that case your filter is again non-causal. So the magnitude function h omega can be 0 at some frequencies, but it cannot be 0 over any finite band of frequencies, since the integral then becomes infinite and then your ideal filter become non-causal. So here we are limiting this, we are giving this condition h of n having finite energy and h of n is equal to 0 for n is less than 0. So whatever integration we are doing in this must be the having the finite value. So to make this filter causal,
we are introducing the term that is a phase response theta omega, so that the resulting filter with frequency response is causal. So H omega is combination of mod of H omega into e raised to j theta omega. So by applying this, what happened? We are making the filter causal. But we have to take care of that, whatever magnitude function we are taken. So suppose whatever magnitude function H omega we are taken, it can be 0 for some particular frequencies, but it cannot be 0 over any finite band of frequencies. If it happen, what happen? The integral becomes infinite, and again we get the non-causal filter. So to make the filter causal, we have to satisfy this Palavenner theorem. Then only we are getting the filter which is causal one and which is physically or practically realizable. Okay, so now magnitude characteristic of physically realizable filter. So now suppose I want to design a filter, what will be the magnitude characteristic of physically realizable filter? Just a second. Yeah, so ideal filters, as we have discussed, ideal filters are non-causal and hence physically unrealizable for real-time signal processing applications. So as we have seen, whatever ideal filter we have discussed, as per their frequency spectrum, or you can say the frequency characteristic we have seen, they are non-causal and hence physically or practically unrealizable for real-time signal processing application. So causality implies that the frequency response characteristic H omega of the filter cannot be 0 except at finite set of points in the frequency range. So as we have discussed in the Palavenner theorem, so this particular frequency characteristic cannot be 0 except at a finite set of points. I mean, for few points it may having the 0 value, but it will not having the continuous 0 values for some band of frequencies. So in addition, H of omega cannot have an infinitely sharp cutoff. So when it satisfies that particular condition, what happen? Another condition is, in addition, H omega cannot have an infinitely sharp cutoff from passband to stop band. So as we have seen that in ideal filter, suppose I draw the ideal frequency response of low pass filter. Let me just a second, I'm drawing over here. Okay, so in ideal filter, what we are showing, whatever this is the pass band and this is the stop band and this is the cutoff frequency. I write the C over here, cutoff frequency. So cannot have a sharp cutoff from pass band to stop off. So in the ideal filter, we assume that this is having the value 1, and after the cutoff frequency omega c, you are having the value 0. So at this particular location, you are having the value 1. For the stop band, you are having the value 0. So the ideal condition is the transition from 1 to 0 directly, or you can say the sharp cutoff from pass band to stop. But here what happened? Here we are written, it cannot have an infinitely sharp cutoff from pass band to stop band. That is, H of omega cannot drop from unity to 0 abruptly. So this, instead of this abrupt transition, we go for some transition from pass band to stop band in a regular way, or you can say in the practical way, or you can say it is reducing slowly, or it is going from 1 to 0 gradually instead of abruptly. So if we relax this condition, it is possible to realize causal filters that approximate the ideal filters as closely as we desire. So if we relax this condition, so what happened? First condition is it will not having the 0 value for some band of frequencies. Another is, if we relax this condition means when we relax this condition, what happened? We are allowing some ripples in the stop band. Okay, otherwise your stop band will be sharp cutoff, but you are allowing some, or you can say allowing some tolerance. So due to that tolerance, what happened? If we relax this condition, it is possible to realize causal filters that approximate the ideal filters as closely as we desire. So this is nothing but again approximation. We are not able to get the ideal filter directly implemented as they are non-causal. So as we relax this condition, it will become causal, and they are physically or practically realizable, and they are nothing but approximation of the ideal filters. So in particular, it is not necessary to insist that the magnitude of H omega be constant in the entire passband of the filter. Also another is, it is not necessary to insist that magnitude H omega be constant in the entire passband of the filter. In the ideal filter, we assume that the filter response having value 1 for the entire passband. But practically we can say that it is not necessary to insist that the magnitude h omega can be constant in the entire passband of the filter. A small amount of ripple in the passband as illustrated is usually tolerable. So as we can say, we allow the, instead of abrupt, yes, 43, having any query? Yes, year 43. If you have any query, you can ask or type in the comment box, please. Okay. So a small amount of ripple in the passband is usually tolerable. So as we have seen that instead of a sharp cutoff from the passband to stop band, we allow the gradual transition. Or another is, instead of continuous constant value in the passband, we allow that at some levels you are not getting the constant value or some transition will happen. So both these will create the, you can see the ripples in the passband as well as in the stop band. So let me show you the diagram. So magnitude characteristic of the physically realizable filter. So as we are allowing this, your passband having some ripples because you are not getting the constant value 1, you are allowing some changes over there, or you can say the transition will occur. So this is nothing but your values are shifted from 1 to either delta 1 amount, or either it is increased by delta 1 amount or it is reduced by delta 1 amount. So here you can say this is nothing but the passband ripple. So your filter, or you can say the passband having the, instead of having constant value 1, it is changing from 1 plus delta 1 to 1 minus delta 1. So that is nothing but the passband ripple that is shown over here. And this particular spectrum from 0 to omega p. Omega p is nothing but the passband edge frequency. So this is nothing but 0 to omega p, that is passband edge frequency. So this particular region is known as a passband region, or you can say the bandwidth of your filter. Okay, and this is nothing but the omega p to omega s. This is nothing but the omega s, whatever we have written, that is stop band edge frequency. So this is the edge frequency of the stop band, and this is the edge frequency of the pass band. Okay, so as we have discussed that instead of sharp cutoff, your cutoff, means you can say your characteristic is you are moving from pass band to the stop band in a gradual way. So this particular bandwidth, or you can say region, is known as a transition band, as the characteristic is getting the transition from pass band to stop band. Okay, but not abruptly. So this is known as a transition band. And also, as we have seen that due to that transition, we are getting this stop band ripple. So here this delta 2, whatever mentioned over here, this delta 2 is nothing but the ripples in the stop band. So what we have discussed, let me summarize again. Here, as we have seen that it is not necessary, or it is not, we cannot insist that we are getting the constant value in the pass band, constant value 1 in the pass band. We are allowing some ripples, so that ripples are amount delta 1. So due to this delta 1 amount, what happened? Either you are getting 1 plus delta 1 value or 1 minus delta 1. So this is nothing but your pass band ripples, and this is the pass band edge frequency omega p, and this is the stop band edge frequency omega s, and between this you are getting this transition band as your signal is moving from pass band to stop band. And another is, in the stop band, again you are not getting the sharp cutoff from pass band to stop band. So due to that, again you are getting some ripples, and these ripples are nothing but stop band ripples. These are delta 1 is nothing but pass band ripples, delta 2 represent the stop band ripples. So this is nothing but the magnitude characteristic of the physically realizable filter. So when you plot any of the filter, here this is the particularly characteristic for low pass filter. So this kind of characteristic you are getting some ripples in the pass band, you are getting some ripples in the stop band, and whatever the transition between pass band and stop band, you are not getting the sharp transition, but you are getting some transition band, that is nothing but omega p minus omega s. Okay, so the filter response may not be 0 in the stop band. Whatever we have discussed, again I am repeating these points. The filter response may not be 0 in the stop band. It may have small non-zero values or ripples. These are known as a stop band ripples. The transition of the frequency response from pass band stop band defines transition band or transition region of the filter. The pass band is usually called bandwidth of the filter. So whatever pass band here we have mentioned, that is 0 to omega p. This particular pass band is known as a bandwidth of that particular filter. So when anybody say this is particular bandwidth of the filter, you have to understand that is nothing but the for this particular low pass filter, this is a 0 and omega c or omega p pass band. So the difference between your initial value and the higher value means lower value of frequency here FL, and here this is the higher value of frequency FH. Or if you want to talk about the frequency terms, then omega h higher frequency band and omega L lower frequency band. And the difference between omega h and omega L will give you the pass band bandwidth. That is, the pass band is usually called the bandwidth of the filter. The width of transition band, that is omega s minus omega p, where omega p defines the pass band edge frequency and omega s defines the stop band edge frequency. So the magnitude of pass band ripples is varies between the limits, because the pass band ripples having the value delta 1 and our constant values are 1. So either you are moving with plus delta 1 or minus delta 1. So the range will be, or you can say the variation will be 1 plus or minus delta 1, where delta 1 is the ripple in the pass band and the ripple in the stop band of the filter is denoted as delta 2. So to accommodate a large dynamic range in the graph of a frequency response of any filter, it is common practice to use logarithmic scale for the magnitude of h omega. So this is a common practice. Whenever any large dynamic range is there, always we convert that particular values in the logarithmic scale to get all the data on that particular graph. So similarly, the ripple in the pass band is 20 log delta 1 decibels, and in the stop band that is given as 20 log 10 delta 2. So we are converting that value into the log values. All of you clear up to this or having any query? If you have any query, you can please ask. We have discussed about the ideal filters having the non-causal characteristics, and due to their non-causality, they are not physically or practically realizable. So to make them realizable, we discuss about the Pele-Wiener theorem. So based on that, we go for this magnitude characteristic. So we can say that if we apply this kind of characteristic, or we can tolerate some ripples in the output, we can allow some ripples in the pass band. So after that tolerances, or after that allowable things, what happen? We are able to get the causal filter response. Or now our filter become causal, and when these characteristics are become causal, they are become practically or physically realizable filters. So up to now we have discussed about these three things: non-causal ideal filters, how to make them causal, and what kind of response we are getting when they are become the causal. Okay, now design of FIR filters. So in a FIR filter, so here two type of FIR filters we have to study. It is symmetric and anti-symmetric FIR filter. Symmetric and anti-symmetric FIR filters. An FIR filter of length m with input x of n and output y of n is described by the difference equation. So whatever FIR filter, finite impulse response of m length with the input x of n and output y of n is described by the difference equation. Y of n is equal to b0 xn, b1 xn minus 1 up to bm minus 1 x of n minus m plus 1. So that is nothing but summation from k is equal to 0 to m minus 1 bk coefficients into x n minus k. So this is a generalized equation in the form of difference equation, where bk is nothing but the state of filter coefficient. So the output sequence can be expressed as a convolution of the unit sample response h of n of the system with the input signal. So whatever output sequence that can also be represented as convolution of the unit sample response h of n of the system with the input signal. So we can, here we return this y of n, or you can say FIR filter in this format. Y of n will be summation from k is equal to 0 to m minus 1 bk x n minus 1. So same thing we can represent that like this. Your
convolution between the unit sample response and the input signal. So h of k into x of n minus k. So when you compare these two equation number 1 and equation number 2, okay, so we can simply say that this bk coefficients are same as your filter coefficients h of k. So that I think we already discussed in the when we discuss about the structure of the FIR filter. So here we are written. So equation 1 and 2 are identical, and hence it follows that whatever bk coefficients that can be represented as h of k. So these are k having the values from 0, 1, 2 up to m minus 1. So the filter can also be characterized by its system function. So whatever filter is given, if you represent into the z domain, so that can be represented h of z summation from k is equal to 0 to m minus 1 h of k filter coefficients into z raised to minus k, which is viewed as a polynomial of degree m minus 1 in the variable z inverse. So whatever your filters, that can be also characterized by the system function, this h of z, and which is nothing but the polynomial of degree m minus 1 in the variable z raised to minus. So the roots of this polynomial constitute the zeros of the filter. So whatever roots we are getting, so roots of this polynomial constitute the zeros of the filter. So linear phase is the property of filter where the phase response of the filter is linear function of frequency. So when we say linear phase, what does it mean? So linear phase is nothing but a property of a filter where the phase response of the filter is a linear function of frequency. So the result is that all frequency components of the input signals are shifted in time. So shifted in time means we can say that they are usually delayed by some constant amount. So all frequency components are some constant amount. So what happened, which is referred to as a phase delay. All frequency components of the input signal are shifted or delayed, and which is known as a phase delay. So there is all components are shifted equally. So what happened? And consequently, there is no phase distortion due to the time delay of frequencies relative to one another. So as we have shifted all the components by some constant amount, so what happened? There is no phase distortion because they all are shifted in a same amount relative to one another. So linear phase filter have a symmetric impulse response. So when we talk about the linear filter or linear phase filters, have a symmetric impulse response. The FIR filter has linear phase if its unit sample response satisfies the following condition. So when we say FIR filter has linear phase, means FIR filter has a linear phase when it satisfies the following condition, that is h of n is equal to plus or minus h of m minus 1 minus n, where n is equal to 0, 1 up to m minus 1. So when we can say when FIR filter satisfies this linear phase condition, we can say that when FIR filter satisfies this condition, we can say it is a linear phase. So when the symmetry and anti-symmetry conditions are incorporated, what we have written, this h of z is represented like this: h0 plus h1 z inverse up to h of m minus 1, as our components are starting from 0 to m minus 1. So we have written h0 to hm minus 1 into z raised to minus m minus 1. So when m having the odd value, your equation will be z raised to minus m minus 1 by 2 h of m minus 1 by 2 plus summation n is equal to 0 to m minus 3 by 2 h of n, and the terms are z raised to m minus 1 minus 2k divided by 2 plus or minus z raised to minus m minus 1 minus 2k divided by 2. This upper equation or equation number 5 is applicable when m having the odd values, and when m having the even values, the equation will be z raised to minus m minus 1 divided by 2 summation n is equal to 0 to m by 2 minus 1 h of n z raised to m minus 1 minus 2k divided by 2 plus or minus z raised to minus m minus 1 minus 2k divided by 2 when m having the even value. So substitute z inverse. Now we go to the equation number 3. In this equation, what we are doing, that is substitute z inverse for z. So whatever z value is written, we write the inverse of that in equation 3 and multiply both sides of the resulting equation by z raised to minus m minus 1. So what happened? Our equation will become z raised to minus m minus 1 into h raised h of z inverse is equal to plus or minus h of z. That is equation number 7. So this result implies that the roots of the polynomial of h of z are identical to the roots of the polynomial of h z inverse. So whatever roots we are getting for the polynomial h of z, same roots we are getting for the polynomial h of z inverse. So consequently, the roots of h of z must occur in a reciprocal pairs. So whatever roots of h of z we are getting, as they occur in a reciprocal pairs. The meaning is, if z1 is a root of 0 of h of z, then 1 divided by z1 is also a root. So they are occur in a reciprocal pairs. So z1 is a root, then also 1 by z inverse will also become a root of that h of z. If the unit sample response h of n of the filter is real, complex valued roots must occur in complex conjugate pair. For example, if z1 is a complex valued root, then z1 complex conjugate is also a root. Means whatever roots of h of n, real and complex valued, they also occur in a complex conjugate pair. So if z1 is a complex valued root, then z1 complex conjugate is also a root, and h of z also has a root at 1 upon z1. So if this having the root z1 inverse, as both are occurring in the reciprocal pair, this 1 upon z1 complex conjugate will also become a root. So let me show you all this on the unit circle. So here if z1 is a root, okay, and if it is a real at this particular location, it is having the complex value. So here 1 upon z inverse, this also become the root. Here z2, which is occur on the real axis, so z2 is root, 1 upon z2 will be the another root. Here z1 complex conjugate is a root, so here 1 upon z1 will also become a root. Similarly, z3 is a root, then 1 upon z3 complex conjugate is a root. z3 complex conjugate is a root, then 1 upon z3 will also become a root. This particular diagram shows nothing but the symmetry of 0 location for a linear phase FIR filter. If your FIR filter is linear one, you are getting this kind of symmetry into the locations of 0. Okay, all of you clear up to this? If anybody have any query, you can please ask. Okay, so today we stop up to this. In the next lecture, we go for the designing of the filters or the frequency response characteristic of the linear phase FIR filters. Okay. Yes, I'm getting. Okay. Okay, let me take the today's attendance. If anybody have any query, you can please ask, because still some time is left with us. So if you have any query, you can ask.
So can you explain that symmetry asymmetry part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the result implies that the roots of the polynomial h of z identical the root of the polynomial of h z inverse. Okay.
So the
So
previous,
the roots.
sorry, the previous
This
slide.
one. This one.
No, sir.
Next or this one.
So previous one. Previous. Slide number is this? Previous to
I'm just
the
moving the slide. As I'm coming to that slide, you just please stop me.
17, I think 17 or 16.
This one.
16.
Okay. Okay. This one.
So the phase distortion part I didn't get, and the
Okay,
last
okay.
point.
Okay. I'm repeating the entire slide. So linear phase is a property of filter where the phase response of the filter is linear function of frequency. So the thing, whatever is mentioned is, the result is that all frequency components of the input signals are shifted in time. So whatever all frequency components, so let me just a second. If I'm taking this frequency component, for example, I'm roughly drawing over here. Okay, here 1, 2, and having value 3. So these 3 frequency components are there. So what happened? Input signal are shifted in time, usually delayed by the same constant amount. So here, for example, I add the delay of +1 over here. Okay, so what happened? Instead of these location, now I'm getting the same 3 components on the location. These 3 components remain same, but their locations are 2, 3, and 4. So here +1 delay is added. So after that, your components will become 2, 3, 4. Means the location of the components will become 2, 3, 4. So what happened? Which is referred to as the phase delay. And consequently, there is a no phase distortion, because what happened? These components are shifted, but their relative distance, or you can say the distance between these 2 components, still remains same, because here 1 and 2, the distance is 1. Okay, here 2 and 3 component distance, or you can say the phase difference, or you can say the 1. So what happened? There is a no phase distortion due to the time delay of the frequencies relative to one another. Only their time delay, or you can say that components are shifted from one location to another location, and all components are shifted by the same amount. So what happened? Now here, instead of the location 1, 2, 3, these same components are available with you at the location 2, 3, 4, but their relative distances are still intact. So due to that, what happened? They are just shifted. So there is a no phase distortion due to the time delay of frequencies. Means their locations are only shifted, but they are not create any phase distortion, because their relative distance or their relative frequencies are still maintained on the same values. I think you got it up to this, Ekta?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now linear phase filter have a symmetric impulse response. Symmetric filter response means whatever, suppose I'm drawing these components 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and here this is a symmetrical point. So after symmetry, if the components are symmetrical, what happen? I am getting the exact mirror image over here after repetition 1, 2, and 3, and this is known as a point of symmetry. Okay. So here, when FIR filter follow this particular characteristic, h of n is equal to plus or minus h of m minus 1 minus n, where n is equal to 0, 1, m minus 1. So when this equation is satisfied, means h of n having the same value or plus or minus value h of m minus 1 minus n, then we can say when you are getting this type of characteristic, these 3 components having the same value. For example, here locations are -1, -2, and -3, and here locations are 1, 2, and 3. So whatever value available at the -1, same value you are getting at the location 1. Whatever value available with the -2, you are getting the same value at the location 2, and similarly for the third. Okay. So when this type of characteristic you are getting, you can say filter having this symmetrical property or they are linear phase. If they are not linear phase, okay, so these 3 components are there. Again, I'm drawing the same 3 components. Okay, and this is again the line of symmetry, but as they are not following the symmetric characteristic, you are getting anti-symmetry. Okay, so anti-symmetry means what happened? These 3 components not having the same value, or either you are getting this kind of value, 1 in the negative direction, 2 in the negative direction, 3 in the same components you are getting, but you are getting in the opposite direction. Whatever positive values, that will now become the negative values. Okay, or another way you can say is these 3 components are 1, 2, and 3. So after this line of symmetry, the repetition may be again like third component first, second component first, second, and this. Okay, so they are not following this type of characteristic, symmetrical characteristic, in which whatever components to the line of into the another side of line of symmetry, you are getting the same component into the other side of the line of symmetry. It means exactly you are getting the mirror image. In this case, you are not getting the mirror image. Here also you are not getting the mirror image. So in that case, in this type of characteristics, we can say our filters are not linear phase. Hope you understand, Ekta?
Yes, sir. Thank you.